has business before this board, please speak up and you will be heard.
Ted, will you open us with prayer?
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come this hour of the morning to give thanks for the many blessings that have restored before us. We thank you for this privilege. We thank you for this opportunity for allowing us to come together to discuss the business of the city. We pray that everything we do will be in your will. It is in Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank y'all for being with us this morning. Our first guest is going to be Dr. Stephen Clark, and he's going to give us an overview of COVID for our area. Dr. Clark, thank you for taking a few minutes to be with us today. Dr. Clark, if you'll give us a little overview of what's going on in the Delta. Stephen, you hear me? I think he may be muted.
He's beyond muted.
Dr. Clark? Dr. Clark? Stephen? Well, Dr. Clark? Dr. Clark?
Call in number up there, but
He hasn't joined audio.
There we go.
Dr. Clark?
Hey there.
Thank you for being with us this morning. If you'll take just a minute and kind of go over the state of Cleveland and the Delta right now from your perspective and thoughts.
Well, from my perspective, overall in the county, as you see by the state health department guide, we have we're about number 27 out of 82 counties as far as cases. We're a little bit higher than that as far as deaths compared to other counties. We have in the hospital now 13 active cases, some that are now recuperated and still in for long-term antibiotics and antivirals. We're still seeing outpatient, probably in my clinic, maybe 6 to 8 cases a day. People are staying at home with it a fair amount now. And then we've kind of got a protocol for folks that get a little sicker to bring them in the hospital. But I think that in the communities where we're seeing people actively trying to wear masks and social distance, we're doing fairly well, even at some of the schools. But then in communities where we're seeing a little bit more laxity, we're getting a lot more spread. And it just happens so quickly. It only takes one person in an area of people that aren't really social distancing to really get things going fast with this disease. So, and we see that like in a family where we'll have a school child or somebody come home sick, get tested positive, then you'll see all the adults all of a sudden over the next 3 to 5 days come in sick. So I can't emphasize enough the need for us trying to continue to mask and social distance. You know, there's a lot of stuff on the different news outlets about the viability of mask and prevention, but there's no doubt, nobody denies that there is significant decrease in disease penetrance if you're wearing a mask. So there's nobody that can give you anything to support not wearing a mask.
Okay. Any questions of Dr. Clark, since he was nice enough to be with us for a little while this morning? Any questions from any of the aldermen?
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes.
Could Dominic give us just a brief overview of where we are in relationship to the governor's mask and the protocol that we're following? I know we've done it over the last 8 months. So where are we now?
Dominique, do you want to comment on that?
So he's named a handful of counties. Like he came out with an additional 6 or 7 counties yesterday.
Yeah.
That are now under mask mandate. He just hasn't named Bolivar County yet, but it looks like he's on pace to do what he did before and potentially put in the entire state. But apparently he's just looking at, the high case areas and then making a determination.
Where are we though right now? What is our protocol that we're trying to tell people to follow? Wear a mask? Or,
right now we have basically said follow the executive orders put out by the governor. And so right now we're highly encouraging people to wear masks, but we're not under a mandate in Cleveland or Bolivar County.
We
Well,
could
I
be
think-
fairly close according to the governor's office. So I think if we're 27th, Stephen, and there were already 12 and they put 6 more on there yesterday, we could be pretty close under that mandate.
I may not understand the whole political situation very well, but I'm not sure why one would wait until you have to be forced to wear a mask if you know it's going to prevent it. Why not go ahead and prevent it to start with so you don't make the big list?
My point exactly, Dr. Clark. Thank you for injecting that. I mean, when we got to be told to do something, what's going on. That's pretty bad, So with that being said, I heard the governor say the same thing. He highly recommend that you wear your mask.
I think it'd be appropriate if we would do something like in terms of a public service announcement, asking people to wear masks before we got on the list. Maybe even the mayor doing an interview.
Those are good thoughts, Maurice. I agree 100% that we need, particularly with Thanksgiving coming on now like it is and all, that we need to make a little push to have our folks get a little more adjusted to wearing these masks again.
Yeah, I don't know if mandatory is the right word to use right now, but we need to do something more than just encourage. If we could get, I noticed some of the stores you go into, on the door it says mask required to enter, and at least those stores, are trying to encourage people to be safe. My fear is this. If it gets out of hand, the last thing we want to get to is another shutdown like we had in March and April.
Right. That would be a shutdown.
That would be devastating going into Christmas time.
It would be.
Well, from a medical standpoint, guys, we're on the edge of the cliff from the standpoint of being able to cover all the medical needs. Right now, we're basically at capacity, and we're rotating people in and out as quickly as we can. So any bulge in the current number of disease people that need to be in the hospital is going to put us over the edge. And all the other hospitals that we would transfer to are full. So, when we get ICU patients, we're more ICU patients than we can handle. We really don't have any place to go with them.
Mayor, I have one question to the doctor.
Okay, Kurt.
Dr. Clark, where in the history that these patients are providing, I know you can't violate any HIPAA rules, but generally, where are the people acquiring the infection? Do they give some tracing information as, well, I went to a wedding, I went to a funeral, or I went to Kroger? I mean, I don't know whether Kroger, I shouldn't say that, but what is it? A family member came home with it.
Usually there's a community gathering or an episode where somebody kind of went outside and had a wedding, a funeral, or something like that, or there was a school event, a ball game or something that someone went to. Well, then the child or the participant comes home and then they spread it through the family members. And that's what I'm usually hearing. It's not really that absolutely every time, but that's mostly what we're hearing.
Okay, I think all these points are well taken, and we need to make some moves to. Greg, do you think you and Buster going around asking the stores possibly to put the mask on? How would that be accepted, Danny?
I think we're seeing about 90% of the people come in with masks. Our biggest problem are people from out of town that don't have masks on when they come in. But about 90% of the folks that are coming in are wearing masks. And right now, the way we're set up, Kirk, we've required all employees of businesses to wear masks. And we're respectfully asking the visitors or customers to come in with masks. But it's not a mandate. It's just a request. But as far as the owners and the employees, yes, they are required to wear masks.
Daniel, Mayor, the board, do we have restriction on like how many people can, what percent of capacity somebody, if they had a wedding reception, how many people can attend that or go into the building? Is it 25% capacity?
I think it's
I
50
think that's
now.
where
50.
50.
Yeah.
I think that's where the problems are. You go to Kroger or Walmart, everybody's got a mask on. I'm telling you, I went there this weekend. People are following the rules, but it's these gatherings where I think it's happening, and people get relaxed or they get casual and they drop their guard. I don't know what to do about that.
I think we go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
Any public service announcements we can get out. I think the stores, I think that's good. I think the stores and the owners already know this. I think if we can get it out to the public somehow, are we still on our website? At one time, Billy, you did a public service announcement with the radios, and that helped.
Yeah, I'll do that again, and I also get with Scott Coopwood and
the paper.
We will do a blast, but want to do whatever Dr. Clark thinks is necessary to help control this, because I don't want us to be on the mandate list. I'm kind of like Dr. Clark.
Yes.
We know it's coming. Let's be prepared.
Proactive.
Yeah.
What happens, Mayor, if the governor puts us on a list, a hot list? What does that do to us?
That you have to have masks on to be up and down the street. Now, how you going to patrol that becomes a whole nother issue.
Yeah, I agree.
As we all know.
I just think it's these gatherings.
Yeah. Okay, well, we need to maybe focus in on those. And a lot of times we're not even aware of those.
A lot of them are in the county too, as well, not in the city.
Right.
You know,
go ahead.
One of the areas that we're having problems, a lot of infection, we don't have any jurisdiction on them, but a lot of kids are having to be quarantined because of what's going on in our schools. Somebody can talk to them about social distancing.
Right. Well, and maybe talking to the different the principals and other folks that are in charge of these school situations. Well, Dr. Clark, thank you so much for taking your time. I think you covered it very well for us, and we will do whatever we feel like we can do and whatever you suggest. So, any further questions of Dr. Clark?
Just want to thank him for all his service.
You've done a marvelous job.
Thanks.
Wow. You're our superhero, Dr. Clark, and thank you so much for being with us.
You guys holler if you need, okay?
Thank you.
Bye.
We'll go into this.
Mayor, now,
yes.
Let me just ask one question. I heard you say about schools, and that's a good idea, reaching out to your superintendents and principals. Do you propose that we need to maybe get a little task force or someone you assign to talk to these particular individuals?
Well, I think
I'd let the fire chief and the police.
Yeah, I was going to meet with Greg and Buster.
Okay.
You know, the crazy thing about it is, if you go in any of these schools, I know I've picked up my grandkids a couple of times after school. Everybody in the school is wearing a mask.
They are.
Everybody in the classroom is wearing a mask. Where we're losing this thing are social events.
That's it.
You know, and I'm sorry, but we could put every mandate in the world out there, and you're not going to stop people from having their own social event. And you certainly can't tell them behind a closed door that, you're going to send a policeman over there to make sure they got mask on. It's just not going to happen.
Well, you're not going to know about it. That's the puzzling
right.
thing, is all these things we hear about is after the fact.
And I've been in a couple of the restaurants on a relatively regular basis, and just about every waiter in every restaurant is wearing a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's not like they're not trying, but I think just a strong encouragement again would be well in order.
Yeah. Greg and Buster, would y'all have time to meet up at my office, Dominic and Michelle, about 10, and we could kind of formulate something to get out to people?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And it seems like the more sit-down restaurants, that it seems like more of the place where the college students are hanging out is where we see waitresses and bartenders and everybody not wearing the mask.
Correct. I've seen them in
I'm not
restaurants.
going to say
They'll be sitting at the
names,
bar
but you know what I'm talking about, that some of these where the younger
Right.
crowds are, the waitresses and bartenders do not have it.
Yeah.
I think those would be the ones we should start with, is to ask that they require their employees.
Right. And I think it's much more, right. Point well taken, Paul. I think it's well taken when Greg and Buster have done a good job of communicating with these different people. Sometimes I think it's better coming from somebody with the uniform on like that than what we send out. But anyway, we'll meet at 10 and formulate some plans. Okay, with that going, our next guest is Deborah Gibbs. Deborah, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Deborah? Can
No,
y'all
we
hear?
can't. Check
We
your.
can't hear you, Deborah.
Unmute.
She's unmuted. Check your volume.
Yeah.
Deborah? We still don't have you, Deborah.
Yes, you can.
Deborah? Dominic, you have a number?
She's muted.
She's muted, I think.
She's muted now.
Deborah?
Billy.
Yes.
On Deborah's situation, Deborah is in my Ward 6, and the problem that Deborah was having about 2 weeks ago, they had a class reunion. Matter of fact, they had 2 class reunions from East Side High School to Old East Side High School. And what went on, she didn't want the crowd to meet up at a place, but the crowd, they took it on their own to come on down there anyway. And I was told by the owner of the place that they didn't open the building up, so the crowd went to the streets. And the problem was they went to the streets and they started doing partying like, and start urinating and everything around some of the neighbors' house. And she thought it was coming from the club, but according to the owner, the club was not open. So she said that she tried to contact the police department to ask the police department if they could get some cars and things moved out of the yard that were direct in front of the club and everything. So she just wanted to keep the club open, but she wanted more protection down there in case the crowd get wild and start going in other people's yard doing things they don't supposed to do. She want to keep the club open, but she want the police kind of help control the crowd when they get so they can't be controlled by her.
Ted, I think she ought to hire a private security. We have all these deputy sheriffs and police officers off duty. She could hire them, and that would be her obligation. I mean,
So
she owns a club. I mean, she's making money. How many private security people does she have?
Kirk, she's not in the club business. The club was not open. What she's saying is that people are just gathering and they're parking on both sides of the street. There's no business establishment open. That's just where people are going.
She said she hadn't been in the club in a couple of weeks, just regularly in the club.
Ted, I thought you said she wanted to keep the club open.
Yeah, she don't want the club. She don't want it closed down.
What kind of club is it?
It was the Haynes building. They rent the building out for different types of functions. And also
I know where that is.
The club that they're talking about is the Hurricane Club. And what you had about 7 or 8 different homecoming gatherings, reunions, and we had people that were coming and going. It was probably in the neighborhood of 500 to 1,000 people that were down at those different reunions. Plus, some of the houses in the neighborhood around also had some reunion parties going on. We tried to keep officers down through there. We tried to keep one side of the street. One year, it was so crowded you couldn't even get a car down the street. This year, we were able to try to keep it open as much as we could. In fact, we had 3 officers that basically stayed in that area trying to police.
Chief, how many people went in the building for these events this year?
That was the issue.
That's her. She's got two things.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now, Deborah. Deborah, Ted is kind of filled us in on the situation. Kirk, you want to finish your question?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's like we were talking to Dr. Clark, our biggest COVID problem are gatherings of people that exceed capacity. I think it's 50%. I don't know what the capacity is at the Hurricane Club or at that event center, but they certainly probably couldn't hold 500 people, maybe 50. But I know that most people, don't we have some requirement, and we need to maybe impose some requirement now on events? Maybe they need private security. They hire their own security if they having some kind of reunion or something, to make sure they stay under capacity and provide for security. I just, from a COVID standpoint, that's a dangerous situation.
When 302 was having those large events early on in this process, did we not shut them down until they could get that under control?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Why is it any different in this situation?
It's not, but you got to know about it.
Well, I understand, but what I'm saying is, the Hurricane Club, I'm just like Kirk. We need to find out what their capacity is. If they have an event more than that, we need to shut it down.
Greg, we'll talk about that at 10.
Excuse me, can I speak?
Yeah, we finally can hear you, Deborah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I really want to talk. How you all doing this morning?
All right.
Good.
Thank you all for what you are doing to try to keep us all safe. But my concern was when they had the event on November, the 7th and the 8th, that the event held over. We had people in our yard, parked in our yard, standing in our yard. In our yards, would not move. So I called the police department to get assistance. I was told they couldn't help me as far as getting the people out of the yard. I called records. I have documentation. I called every record I could find. I was willing to pay a record $500 to $1,000 to move them out of my yard. My Jesus really was tested, and I held on because I could have knocked that car out of my yard with my bus. These people threatened us in a sense. It was very dangerous down there. I could have been on the news for something really bad, and my husband. So we didn't feel safe. We could not sleep. The noise, I can show you a recording of me in my house listening to the noise on the outside. What I was telling Mr. Campbell, it wasn't, the noise wasn't in the club, but the club was open. And if the people were in the club, that's okay. They're in the club, but they were not in the club. They were in our yard. They were parked in our yard. They took over our yards. We couldn't get no assistance. They blocked our driveways. We could not get out. Even the fire hydrant down there, was blocked. Our streets were just filthy with paper. It was disgusting. We live in a neighborhood that we do care about, but it wasn't, the people were not at the Haynes building. It was closed. The club was open looking for people. They had desks. and the family, so they had people in, but then they also said they were having a class reunion. These people were out on the street, both sides, especially the side that says no parking anytime. I said, if they can allow to park on that side of the street that says no parking anytime, I could park my 2 buses down the street, my 4 vans, my cars, and keep where I live, where I could get out. We couldn't do anything, and we were so disrespected. I haven't recuperated from staying up from 4 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the morning from what went on. I mean, it really did affect me. And then think about these people were unmasked, going home to children that go to school, going home to grandparents, going home to mom. It was disgusting. At least if they gonna be inside. Don't be in yard. I mean, yard just, doesn't have anything to do with whatever you're doing. I'm not trying to stop you from having your fun. Do your fun, but don't do it in my yard.
Deborah, you don't have as far as the club being open and everything, you're not for closing the club down or anything like that, are you?
We're not trying to close down the club. Stay in the club. You know, they said no loitering. We don't want 50, 100, and 200 people out in our yard.
What time, ma'am?
But the club was a part of what went on. So the club is not excluded.
What time of day or night was this?
This was started maybe about 10:30 and went on to 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, Friday and Saturday.
Well, let's put a 10 o'clock. I think that 10 o'clock curfew we put on these bars downtown ought to apply to that, and then close them down at 10 o'clock.
It should apply. You're right. Thank you so much.
Would you like that, ma'am? Would close them down at 10 o'clock?
That would be perfect.
And then why don't we put up
at least everybody can get some sleep.
And then put up no parking signs on both sides of the road, and when they park, then you can tow all the cars. I think.
I know it's no parking been on our side for almost 20 years. On one side, it's been no parking any time. So they did
put
get
it on the
club,
other side, ma'am.
Oh, okay, it's fine with me.
Then you tow it. Ain't about $300 a tow cheap.
One issue that we've got is those parking lots for these different businesses that are down there, like the club and the Haynes building that's rented out. They don't have a lot of parking space in those lots. And then when they have events, they have large numbers of people that come to those events. And that's where a lot of the issue is coming in, is these people do not have a place to park, but on the street. We try to keep the no parking side open. But if we don't have somebody there, literally from the time they open till the time they close, people will come in and park on that no parking side of the street, and we try to get them moved out.
What about if we do an ordinance, Kirk, that says if you got an event center that you're going to rent out like that, if the capacity of the building, whatever the fire code is, and we're at 50%, you got to have that much parking. It isn't job to provide parking. If the building doesn't have parking, you can't rent it out.
This poor lady put up no parking on both sides of the street. That way, when they buy it, she's entitled to have her home protected, tow all the cars, and I think after somebody's car is towed, it's about $300 or $400 to get it out.
I would have paid the money myself.
Well, you can't pay that, ma'am, but the individual car owner would.
I think as Ted and Ms. Gibbs said, the major problem is not the Haynes building, it's not the club. You have all these people that come down to this area with no intention of going to any one of those buildings. They're just gathering at a site and they're just reminiscing. They all over the place doing every kind of thing. So you can close the club down. They are still coming. When you have homecoming activities, like Chief said, you have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people. They're all the way from Legion Road all the way past the club. And you just can't get through there.
I know that, and I hear that, Maurice. But from a criminal standpoint, I don't know what the violation of the law is.
And I think the only thing that we can actually do is start citing people for illegal gathering, because the club or the Haynes building can't control what people do in the street.
I don't know if First Amendment rights you can do that.
Can do what?
If you've got 10 people out here on the sidewalk, go out there and say, we're gonna arrest you for being out there.
That's what I'm saying. Therein lies the rub. That's the problem.
I mean,
Let me ask you, we got a governor's order that says you cannot have a gathering over 100 people. And if you got over 100 people there, then we got a governor's order. Doesn't that not give you the right to start arresting people if they don't care?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think
I'm asking. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
I think what we do is if there's a business participating in it, then you could take action to revoke their privilege license and shut them down. But if you had 50 people out on a public street on a sidewalk, they have a constitutional right to gather. I don't know if you can just go out there and say, we're going to arrest all of you for being out here. Now, if they're drunk, disorderly, profane, obscene, trespassing, yeah, you can.
Exactly.
About the 1 o'clock curfew.
Why don't we say 10 o'clock down there?
10 o'clock.
On the club and the Hain building. This lady, does she want that?
That'll work for me. Yes, sir.
How about your neighbors?
Yes, and they can sign off on it. We've talked and they wanted to meet, but 8:30 was too late for a lot of them because we talked about it.
I have a question, Mayor.
Danny?
Ms. Gibbs, you commented, and this is concerning to me, that you had people in your yard that were not invited, and you if I understood you correctly, you said you contacted the police department and they said there was nothing they could do. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I got documentation. And one of the police that did, he came to the door. My sister, he had gone next door. My sister brought him to the house. He came next door. When I was stepping off the porch, off my step to come down, I was telling him about what was going on. He was acting like I was a threat. I said, man, I got on pajamas. Like I was walking up, I was coming down off the step while he was standing down to the step. He said, don't come up on me. I was walking down the step talking to him about the situation.
Chief, address that for me, please. If someone has trespassers in their yard, what do?
If they have a trespasser in their yard, someone on foot, they can call us. We can remove them if they ask us to. But if someone parks in their yard or parks in their driveway, we don't know if they're a guest or not. We can't have that car removed or towed. The property.
I'm telling you all that they are not part of us. And I got documentation, took pictures.
I understand that, but you as the property owner would have to call the record service to have them removed. We can't remove them off your private property, but you can have them removed. As far
That's
as
what I'm saying. I couldn't get a record. I called all kind of records. I called McCain. I got documentation of all the records I did call. And one person who said they could come and get it was Burnell Hutton, but he said, I don't have a place to put it. But everybody else did not answer or would not come.
So the trespassers were in your driveway. They were not standing in your yard.
Yeah, they were standing in my yard in park. And when we told them to move, they said, we going to move and walk toward us as if they were going to do something. And I promise you, they did not move until the club was closed.
Okay.
And I called the police up until about 1 o'clock.
Okay, well, I think we
called the police department, Mr. Buster. I called your house phone, then I called your cell.
Correct.
And we felt threatened. We felt unsafe in our own home, in our own yard. That was ridiculous.
Ms. Gibbs, when you called my house phone and I talked to you, I came out, and at that time there was not any parking on the no parking side of the street. I rode down the street myself at that point.
I got videos of it. I promise you I do. I don't know what you missed on Prison Street, but I got documentation. I got video of the whole thing from the time. I got videos. I promise you I do. If you didn't see it, it's on video.
Okay, well, ma'am, I didn't see it, and I talked to two officers.
I wish I can click y'all over so y'all can see these videos.
I would like to see.
I'm not exaggerating. I don't like that. I'm not exaggerating. And I got documentation.
I would like to see them, and I would like to see everything you've got.
And another thing too, I talked to Dolores, the late Jesse Foster wife, and matter of fact, she came out of my house, and she keeps saying that the club itself was not open, so those people were just in the street.
The club was open all night, y'all. We got okay. Well, we'll get our people. If y'all need the ones who stay down there to let you know.
No, I think we have I think we got a grip on what to do.
Miss Gibbs, I believe you.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of
that.
I
I
think it's
documentation. I'm an educator, and I know you have to document, and I did that for my own self.
Ms. Gibbs, it's your neighborhood. Do you want to close that club at 10 o'clock?
Yes, that would be perfect. We could get some sleep.
All right. Well, I make that motion that we impose that close at 10 o'clock p.m.
Second.
Kirk made motion. Danny second. All in favor, say aye.
I got a question.
Okay, Maurice.
Can we impose a curfew on just one club?
I thought it was on everybody under this COVID situation right now.
Oh, that's citywide?
That's what my thoughts were. Is that different from anybody else's?
I don't know.
Where are we right now? I mean, what do you?
Well, that's what I thought we were at now. Danny, Griffith, do you?
I'm listening. You need to be universal in what you do.
Yeah, I agree.
You're gonna close it down on Christmas. You're going to close it down on Cotton Row. So just
I don't have any problem with that.
I thought we had extended for some reason.
I thought we went to midnight.
We did, Billy. We went to midnight.
Okay. All right. Well, I thought it was 10.
Then I make a motion, then I change that to midnight.
Second. I changed my second.
Okay. Motion made second to change that to midnight. And it sounds like, from what Ms. Gibbs said, the situation didn't get started till like 11 o'clock. So
I think the chief needs to go make a visit to whoever.
I think chief needs to visit.
Tell them they've got problems, and if they don't get it under control, we will close the club down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's singing that same songbook now.
All right. The motion is to close everyone down at 12. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. I'll also, Buster, if you and Ted can visit with Ms. Gibbs and come up to some resolution on how we're going to handle these different
Be glad to.
That's exactly. Mr. Campbell, I'll get with you after the meeting and we'll set up a time.
Right.
Yes, that'll be fine.
And can I ask also, Mayor, if Ted would determine if we need to put more no parking on that street?
Yes.
Ted, will you look into that?
Yes, I would. You know, also at our last board meeting, I also suggested that we put a 4-way stop sign up on Christmas and Delta Street too. We need a 4-way up there too.
And Josh, y'all were to look into that from a traffic standpoint.
Yes.
Protocol.
Buster and Ray, we're going to look into that and come back with a recommendation to the board.
Okay. We need to move on here. I got a text from Dr. Clark. He said he was meeting with the superintendent and the school people at 11 this morning and going to give somewhat the same talk that he gave to us this morning. So with that being said, Danny Griffith, we'll go into the consent agenda.
Mayor, now, do
Yeah.
you mind if I moved up? I have a pre-construction meeting for our airport ceiling project going on right now.
Yes, sir. Please do, Josh.
All right. I have a few items on my agenda. Approval of the airport storm drainage pay request, some of the repairs that have been made out there.
So moved.
You want to give them all to us?
Sure. Approval of the low bid for the station renovation. We've already ordered all the equipment. This is just hiring the contractor to make the repairs. We've already, right now, Harris and Tibbs sewer pump stations are under construction. And now animal shelter. Do y'all have the bid tab for the animal shelter?
Dominique?
Yes.
I think
I have the tab sheet.
Yeah, I think we maybe need to punt this discussion. Because I reran the numbers and thought about the operating expenses. So I feel like maybe we should discuss this at the December meeting.
That'd be fine.
And
Motion
then,
table.
okay.
All right.
Okay. All in
And
favor, say aye. Okay.
the quick update is cameras. Buster and I have been talking. We've talked to a couple different companies. We have another meeting scheduled this afternoon with another camera provider to discuss a few. So we're planning to have more together for December 1st.
Okay, do we have a motion for the pay request?
Motion.
Paul made the
Second.
motion. Danny second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And you guys need to approve the lowest and best bid for the Shelby Pump Station Improvement Project.
Okay.
I thought we were approving it all. Okay. So moved.
Paul made the motion.
Second.
Gary second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Josh. You go to the other meeting. You wear a lot of hats. Okay, now Danny Griffith, we'll go back to consent agenda.
Consent agenda is before you
So
for
moved.
approval.
Paul made the motion.
Second.
Robert second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, city attorney, go ahead, Danny.
Thank you. You'll have everything else in our packet for December. I'll have a resolution drafted to fit what was just approved over to the mayor when they have their 10 o'clock meeting. Is any questions?
Okay. Any questions of Danny?
Mayor, I believe we need to have an order entered for appointment of an interim prosecutor, John Marshall Alexander. He works in the Alexander Johnson Alexander firm.
Right. He's gonna take Robert. We're gonna hope and pray for Robert, but it's very kind of this guy to fill in for him.
Well, he's a
Motion, Kirk.
Kirk made the motion.
I made that motion.
Danny, second. All in favor, say aye.
I got a question, Mayor.
Okay.
For how long is this interim? Are we gonna open it up if anyone else wants to apply?
Oh, well, interim, we're gonna wait and see how Robert Johnson fares with this.
If he lives and
If he lives or not.
Okay, so this is just on an interim basis.
Temporary.
Yeah, that's what you said, wasn't it, Kirk?
Yeah.
I said
In the hospital.
Interim, yeah.
John's in the same law firm and is a retired federal prosecutor. He's pretty qualified.
Yeah. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've had engineering, community development. Kenny?
Many of you know that the residents of Underwood submitted a letter regarding the Bolivar County Community Action Building. We had a meeting with some of the residents on last night regarding the letter that we received. The meeting started out by Alderman Maurice Smith. Myself, Albert Leeson, who was the engineer, we tried to address each of the questions that they posed to us, and we fielded additional questions regarding the center itself and how to use the plans, the green space. We answered most of their questions, and at the end of the meeting, we were all pretty assured that the project would be a great fit for the neighborhood. And there was one question that they did have that we asked them to call the county administrator over the properties. They were concerned about their property values dropping, and we could not answer that question. Well, overall, it was a great meeting.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think it'll be a good asset to Cleveland there. Strong place. So good job, Kenny.
Well, now that meeting is finalized, they're ready to move forward. I mean, is anything else gonna come up from that area? We finished with it.
I think we're finished. They are still awaiting their final process from the bank in receiving their funds. But as far as the construction documents, if the building changes, they would have to resubmit for the building themselves, because what we approved, I don't know what changes they've made, but if there are changes, we'll get together and get with the architect to see what the construction site looks like. But as far as I know, everything else is still a go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, human resources.
Mayor, I don't have anything today. Thank you.
Okay. Sandy, do we have anything for executive session?
No, sir.
Okay. Kirk?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Your Honor, you know what you do when it's this time in the meeting. You want to dismiss us?
I move we adjourn this meeting.
Kirk
Second.
made the motion.
Second.
Second by Ted. All in favor, say aye.
Ah,
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today.
Thank y'all.
See you guys at 10.
Mayor, I'll send you a draft on this resolution over